Welcome, 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 my dear. You know, there's something interesting about you. Something that doesn't sit where it's supposed to sit. I've been watching the way you carry certain truths without ever acknowledging them. The way you pretend you don't notice when things line up a little too neatly around you. People think you're just moving through the ordinary, but I've seen that look in your eyes, that little flicker, that moment when you realize someone else has been paying attention long before you ever did. And that's why you're here now. Because something surfaced, something slipped through the cracks, something you weren't meant to hear. Someone leaked internal comms, and suddenly, everything you suspected in the back of your mind isn't something you can ignore anymore. It's right there, sharp, undeniable. They've been watching you since birth, monitoring patterns before you even had a pattern to offer. They knew your name before your parents chose it. Imagine that. Before breath, before identity, before the world even knew what shape you were going to take, the Watchers already had their eyes on you. Now that should bother you. Not in the way normal things bother normal people, no. This isn't about fear. This is about recognition. Because deep down, somewhere under all that composure you keep polishing, you felt it. You felt the observation long before you had proof. That strange pressure in the back of your mind, that sensation of being evaluated even when you were alone. Most people chalk it up to imagination. You didn't. You kept it tucked under your ribs, like some quiet suspicion that refused to dissolve, no matter how many times you told yourself to get over it. And now, look at you, standing in front of something you weren't supposed to see, something that wasn't meant for your eyes, and you're realizing the truth that's been circling your life like a shadow with a pulse. Someone monitored your arrival, someone tracked your development, someone studied your decisions before you understood what decisions meant. And now you want to know why. Let's talk about that. Why you? Why would anyone waste resources, time, and attention on someone who wasn't even fully formed yet? It's not about threat. It's not about danger. People like them don't watch out of concern. They watch out of curiosity. And curiosity, when it comes from individuals who operate behind curtains, is rarely casual. They don't observe the ordinary. They don't catalog the predictable. They follow outliers, variables, individuals who move just slightly out of rhythm with what the world expects. And you, well, you've been out of rhythm since the beginning, haven't you? You move like someone who's never fully aligned with the environment around you. And that's not a flaw. That's a pattern they noticed early. A pattern that didn't match others. A pattern that demanded attention. So they watched, quietly, consistently, without blinking. They watched when you learned how to walk. They watched when you learned how to speak. They watched every time you did something they didn't predict. And every unpredictable moment made them lean a little closer. Because when something doesn't match its category, it becomes an exception. And exceptions attract watchers like fire, attracts those who pretend they're not fascinated. You want to know what they wrote about you in those internal comms? They didn't use dramatic language. They didn't mark you as a threat. They called you something far more intriguing, a developing variable, not dangerous, not stable, not unstable, just undefined. And they don't like undefined. They like boxes, labels, neat files. But you kept rearranging yourself as you grew. You kept rewriting the expectations placed on you. And people like them don't appreciate when something refuses to stay in the outline they designed for it. But here's the part that should interest you more than anything else. Someone leaked those comms. Unintentionally? No, there are no accidents in rooms like theirs. Someone wanted you to know. Someone wanted this truth to hit you at a particular point in your life. Someone wanted your awareness to ignite exactly now. That timing isn't random. That timing is intentional. They've been watching you since birth, but this is the first time they let you watch back. Why would they do that? Why let you see the observation you weren't supposed to notice? Simple. Because you're reaching a stage where your development is no longer passive. You're no longer just the subject of their notes. You're entering a point where your decisions, your movements, your very presence start generating ripples they can't fully anticipate. And when something's unpredictable begins to grow sharper, watchers start adjusting their approach. They call it precaution. I call it fascination. Look at the situation again. You have fragments of conversations that weren't meant for anyone outside their circle. Mentions of your childhood before you were aware of the world. Records of your progression marked in tones of interest rather than concern. That means they weren't hoping you would fail. They were hoping you would unfold. They weren't trying to prevent something. They were waiting for something. Something they detected before you could even form a thought. And now, you're closer to whatever that something is. Close enough that they loosened the curtain. They didn't expose everything. They gave you just enough. Enough to unsettle you. Enough to make you question. Enough to make you realize that someone has been shaping their expectations around your existence for a very long time. And that's what bothers you, isn't it? Not the watching, not the tracking, not the notes. What bothers you is the implication, because if someone was observing you before you even had a name, then what does that make you? A subject? A project? A prediction waiting to be fulfilled? No, it makes you something else. Something far more inconvenient for them. It makes you aware. And awareness is the one thing they never wanted you to possess at full strength. Because awareness shifts power. When the observed becomes conscious of the observer, the dynamic rearranges itself. The watchers lose a layer of advantage, and you, well, you gain one. Not because you know everything, because you know enough. Let's dig into that. You weren't supposed to find out at this stage. They plan to reveal it later, once your development settled into something more measurable. But you have a habit of reaching levels earlier than they anticipate. You always have. And early realization forces early reaction. Now they're adjusting, reassessing, recalculating. They don't know if you're going to embrace the truth, reject it, weaponize it, or evolve because of it. They don't know what you're going to do next. And uncertainty, well, that's something they cannot stand. They want control. They crave predictability. But you have never been something they could predict. They've spent years trying to align you with charts, graphs, categories, and outcomes, only for you to keep slipping through the constraints. You're not chaotic. You're not wild. You're something worse for them. You're fluid, and fluidity cannot be mapped with precision. So now they're all whispering, comparing notes, re-examining details, rethinking old assumptions. Because you're not supposed to know that they've been studying you since before you existed in their world in any meaningful way. But now you do, and knowledge does something to a person. It changes the way you move. It sharpens the way you think. You start seeing through the cracks instead of staring at the surface. You start recognizing patterns that used to feel random. You start feeling the weight of choices that never felt heavy before. And once perception shifts, it doesn't shift back. That's the part they fear. Not your strength, not your potential, your awareness. They know once you understand the depth of their observation, you begin to see them with detail they never wanted to reveal. You're not imagining anything anymore. You're not overthinking. You're not paranoid. You're informed. And informed individuals don't just exist. They act. They question. They analyze. They grow sharper. They step into the version of themselves that was being monitored all along. And that's what's happening to you right now. It's not panic. It's clarity. It's the moment when the observer's presence becomes part of your environment instead of an invisible force behind it. You're integrating the truth. You're absorbing it. You're transforming because of it. And transformation is the one outcome they couldn't fully prepare for. Look at you now. You're not reacting emotionally. You're processing, like someone who understands that information only becomes dangerous when it starts interacting with identity. And yours is interacting right now. You're realizing you were never walking alone. You were walking with a presence just beyond your awareness. Something intentional, something focused, something unnervingly patient. And patience, when applied over years, creates a pattern too large to ignore. They didn't stop watching. They didn't lose interest. They didn't shift attention elsewhere. No, they stayed. They tracked. They waited for this. For the point where your awareness meets their observation head-on. You standing here now is the moment they've been waiting to measure. And yet, you're not breaking. You're not collapsing. You're not spiraling. You're steady, calm, almost collected, like someone who always suspected that the world was paying attention in ways it refused to admit. That's why they tracked you, not because of what you were, because of what you could become once you learned the truth. Awareness changes your trajectory, not upward, not downward, inward. And once a person is aligned inwardly, outward influence loses power. That's something they never wanted you to discover. But here you are, discovering it anyway. The truth isn't the problem. It's what the truth activates. And right now, it's activating something inside you that doesn't shrink from observation. It grows from it. You're beginning to understand the scale of attention placed on you. And that realization, whether you notice it or not, is guiding you toward the next stage. The stage where you stop being the observed and start being something far more inconvenient for them. Something they cannot categorize or contain. Something that moves with intention instead of habit. Something that dismantles the advantage they thought they had. You're walking toward that point now. Slowly, naturally, as if the truth didn't destabilize you but clarified you. This isn't shock. This isn't confusion. This is transition. And transitions, especially ones triggered by knowledge long hidden, always lead somewhere they didn't prepare for. You're becoming someone who can see behind the observation, someone who can read the watchers as easily as they've been reading you, someone who can move beyond what they predicted. And once a person steps into that kind of awareness, the watchers lose their comfort. What you're feeling now isn't fear, it's alignment, a shift in the internal architecture, the beginning of something they sensed before you were even given a name. And now that you've reached this threshold, there is no turning back. You're starting to see the world the way they see you, with detail, with depth, with intention, and they know it. They feel it. They're adjusting as you adjust, watching as you grow sharper, waiting to see what this awareness becomes when fully realized. Because once it is, the dynamic changes entirely. And isn't that the interesting part? The moment they lose the advantage they built from the very beginning. They crafted your file long before you had a voice. long before you had a concept of identity, long before you could ever understand what it meant to be evaluated by eyes that don't blink. You were marked as a developing variable. That's what they wrote, you know. Not because they expected disorder, no, but because there was something in your early data that didn't follow the comfortable patterns they rely on. When a child doesn't fit a projection, they get classified, observed, contained within a quiet folder that grows thicker over the years, page by page. And now you understand that, don't you? The folder didn't end. It only expanded. You want to know when they realized you were going to become a problem? It wasn't when you made a mistake. It wasn't when you succeeded. It wasn't when you defied something that expected compliance. No, it was when you began to think for yourself without external cues. You started connecting pieces before they were placed in front of you. You noticed things meant to slide past your awareness. You reacted to events before others realized there was something to react to. That type of perception isn't random, it's structural. And structural traits are the ones they study aggressively, because they don't want individuals who outgrow the environment designed to shape them. They want compliance, predictability, a clean line from one stage to the next. But you have never been a clean line. You've been a deviation they couldn't categorize, and deviations attract attention the same way cracks attract pressure. Now let's talk about those leaked recordings. Someone didn't just leave them out in the open. Someone placed them where they knew you'd stumble across the truth. They didn't send you everything. They don't hand over their entire archive. They gave you a sliver, a fragment, a taste of what's been happening behind curtains you weren't meant to see behind. Why? Because someone in that circle wants to watch what you do with this new awareness. They want to observe how you move once you realize they've been studying you since before breath, before thought, before identity. You've become part of an internal experiment, and the moment you saw those comms, your role shifted. You're no longer the unaware subject. You're the emerging factor, and emerging factors make them nervous. You think nervous is an exaggeration? Look again at how your life unfolded. Think about all the coincidences you dismissed because you were told they were normal. The individuals who appeared in your path at exact moments. The opportunities that closed without explanation. The conversations you overheard that felt strangely positioned around you. These weren't accidents. These were indicators, signals, pieces of a trail you weren't meant to follow. Until now. Because now, they want to see if you connect everything. They want to see if your awareness matches the potential they documented before you existed in conscious memory. That's what fascinates them about you. Your awakening didn't come with panic. It came with focus, with steady breath, with clarity sharpened by truth, instead of crushed by it. Most people, when faced with the idea that they've been observed since birth, crumble. They question themselves, their worth, their safety. But not you. You processed the truth like someone who already knew something was wrong with the narrative handed to you. You didn't break. You didn't shake. You aligned. And alignment is the one reaction they didn't prepare for. Because alignment means you're starting to position yourself, not emotionally, strategically. This is where things begin to twist in your favor. You're beginning to understand that the watchers aren't omnipotent. They aren't flawless. They rely on patterns, predictions, projections. And you? Well, you've always had a habit of breaking patterns, right when they expect you to follow them. They don't fear your strength. They fear your unpredictability. They fear that you're reaching a point where observation no longer influences you. Because once someone stops being shaped by the observer loses relevance, and they cannot afford to lose relevance. Their entire structure depends on control, on oversight, on the ability to categorize those they monitor. But you're beginning to slip out of that category. Not violently, quietly, smoothly, like someone stepping into a version of themselves that has been waiting to surface. Let me tell you something they would never put in writing. They monitored you before your name was chosen, because names shape narratives, and you were never going to fit the narrative given to you. They tried to determine your trajectory. They tried to place you in environments that would mold you. They tried to surround you with variables that would contain your potential. But potential, like yours, doesn't bow to placement. It adapts. It rearranges the environment instead of being rearranged by it. And they saw that early. They saw the way you absorbed pressure, the way you internalized patterns without becoming trapped in them, the way you perceived intention before it surfaced. Traits like that aren't common. They're rare. And rarity demands attention. Now that you're aware, you're beginning to observe them in return. You're noticing when individuals behave strangely around you, when information appears too conveniently, when opportunities seem designed to push you rather than guide you. You're reading intentions the way they've been reading you, and that terrifies them, because observation is supposed to be one-directional. They observe, you exist. But once the subject begins to see the observer clearly, the entire structure fractures. You've changed the balance without even trying. And that's what they're recalculating now. Not your potential, but your awareness. There's something else you're beginning to understand. If someone leaked those comms, then there are factions within the Watchers. Not everyone agrees on what should be done with you. Some want to control, some want to restrict, some want to observe, but some want to see what happens when you know the truth. They see you as an unfolding equation that becomes more interesting when it's conscious of itself. And that group, whoever they are, is the one responsible for your revelation. They didn't leak everything. They leaked just enough to awaken you. They fed the spark, not the flame, because they want to know if you light the rest yourself. Think about that. Someone believes that once awakened, you're capable of moving in ways that don't require their guidance. They want to see your independent path. They want to see how awareness reshapes your choices. They want to see if you surpass the expectations written about you long before you took your first step. And you're doing exactly that, even if you don't realize it yet. Now consider the Watchers who didn't want you to know. Those who preferred you remain unknowing. They're the ones tightening their analysis now. They're the ones reviewing your reactions. They're the ones worried about what happens when someone with your perception becomes conscious of the truth. They don't fear what you'll do intentionally. They fear what you'll do instinctively. Because instincts aren't predictable. They're organic, responsive, unfiltered. And your instincts have always carried an edge they couldn't file down. But here's the part that shifts the entire situation. You're not reacting the way they expected. You're not spiraling. You're not retreating. You're not confronting recklessly. You're stabilizing. Your awareness is becoming part of you rather than overwhelming you. That is extremely dangerous for them. When a person integrates truth rather than collapses under it, they become capable of movement beyond observation. They become capable of seeing through the design they were placed in. And once you see the design, you can navigate it with precision. You may think you're just processing information, But you're doing something much more significant. You're stepping into a vantage point they never intended for you to reach. You're beginning to see your life from the outside, the way they've been seeing it since the beginning. And that vantage point gives you leverage. Because now you understand that you were never walking alone. You were being tracked, evaluated, watched. But now that you know, you're not just the observed, you're the participant. And participants change outcomes. Let me tell you something else. When they wrote that they knew your name before your parents chose it, they weren't being poetic. They were being factual. They mapped your trajectory based on early indicators, genetic markers, behavioral predictions, patterns observed before you had the ability to speak. They saw something forming long before the world recognized you as an individual. They noted that your mind didn't align with conventional projections. And now, watching you align with the truth instead of collapsing under it confirms what they suspected. Your awareness will always outpace their expectations. Look at what's happening to you internally. Nothing is collapsing. Everything is reorganizing. You're not resisting the truth. You're absorbing it. And that absorption is reshaping you into something more precise, more focused, more intentional. They never wanted you to operate at this level of awareness, this early. But here you are, operating with clarity they hoped to delay for years. You've disrupted their timeline without even trying. And now they have to adjust to your pace, rather than force you to follow theirs. That's why they're watching so closely now. Not because they want to see if you break, but because they want to see how you expand. Expansion at this stage is unpredictable, and unpredictability threatens structures built on control. They're not monitoring your actions. They're monitoring the shifts in your internal state. They're watching for patterns in your responses. They're trying to map your awareness in real time. But awareness like yours isn't something they can measure easily. It moves too fluidly, it adapts too quickly, it changes shape faster than they can document. And that is where things begin to tilt in your favor. You're no longer moving blindly. You're moving with knowledge. And knowledge, real knowledge, not the kind handed down through controlled channels, is something they can't manage once it settles inside you. You're becoming someone who sees the watchers with the same level of clarity they've used against you. Someone who understands that being observed doesn't chain you. It positions you. Someone who knows that once the observer becomes visible, they lose the advantage they've held since the beginning. You're crossing into that point right now. Not loudly, not aggressively, but naturally. Like someone who was always meant to reach this stage once the truth surfaced. And they know it. They feel the shift. They see the recalibration in your decisions, your thoughts, your perception. They know you're beginning to understand the structure surrounding you. And that understanding creates a ripple they cannot ignore. The watchers aren't worried about what you'll do next. They're worried about what you'll become once awareness fully settles. They're worried that the individual they monitored since before your name existed is stepping into a form they didn't design. They're worried that you're no longer subject to their projections. You're becoming something outside the file they created, something that doesn't need their approval, their validation, or their oversight. And that is the moment their entire framework begins to tighten. Because the one thing these observers never planned for was that the subject would outgrow the observation. They assumed the file would stay large enough to hold you, to define you, to dictate where you fit. But now they're realizing they miscalculated. And miscalculations in their world, are unacceptable. You see, when someone has been watched since birth, studied, catalogued, documented, before they could even form intention, the watchers develop a kind of ownership. Not legal, not spoken, but psychological. They believe they have the right to interpret you, the right to intervene in your development, the right to decide when you're informed and when you're kept ignorant. It's the arrogance of those who operate behind curtains. They think secrecy gives them authority. They think being unseen makes them higher. But now, for the first time, you're seeing them clearly, and that clarity shakes something internal in their structure. Because here's the truth they would never admit to each other. The moment you discovered those leaked internal comms, their control fractured. You weren't supposed to hear the recordings that documented your existence before your parents even settled on your name. You weren't supposed to hear the tone in their voices, not panic, not excitement, but curiosity sharpened by calculation. They spoke about you as if you were an equation that didn't balance yet, a variable that kept producing results outside the margins. They weren't predicting your future. They were trying to fit you into one. And the recordings prove it. Every whisper, every timestamp, every clipped phrase shows exactly how long they've been following your trajectory. Not because you were dangerous, not because you were gifted, but because you refused to match the profile they expected. That's what the watchers despise most: deviation. A child who grows into a pattern that can't be mapped. Someone who doesn't bend under projection. Someone who doesn't respond to conditioning the way their models predicted. These institutions thrive on predictability. They write reports based on patterns of thousands, then panic when one doesn't fit. And you, well, you've never fit. Not even before you understood what it meant to be observed. Somewhere in those early lines of data, the indicators were already present. They saw a divergence, a subtle shift, a trait that didn't align with the standard sets. And instead of letting you simply exist, they elevated you into a subject of interest, someone who needed to be tracked, not corrected, not yet, but monitored. And now, all these years later, after you've stepped across the threshold of awareness, they're facing something they never accounted for: confrontation without confrontation. You haven't yelled, you haven't retaliated, you haven't exposed them. You simply know. And knowledge can slice deeper than rebellion ever could. You're holding the truth like a blade they can't take from you. And they understand that. They understand the danger of someone who processes the revelation instead of collapsing beneath it. Let's walk through the part they fear the most, not what you know, but what you've started to do since knowing. You've become observant, not outwardly, but internally. You're tracking patterns the same way they tracked you. You're noticing connections behind casual encounters. You're questioning the timing of events you once ignored. You're recognizing when individuals around you act with strange coordination, subtle behaviors that mimic protocol rather than instinct. That is what unsettles them. Not your awareness of their past surveillance, but your ability to detect the present shadows of it. Because once someone can identify the outline of the observer becomes vulnerable. And vulnerability is something their world cannot tolerate. These watchers were built on the illusion of omniscience. They operate under the belief that they see everything, know everything, interpret everything. But now you've cracked that illusion. You've stepped into a place where their gaze is no longer invisible. You feel it, you trace it. You sense its movements even when they try to hide. The recordings weren't supposed to give you power. They were supposed to stay sealed, archived, buried in encrypted layers, but someone leaked them. Someone within their own circles broke formation, and that breach didn't just expose truth, it exposed weakness. Think about that very carefully. A structure that monitored you since before you had a name couldn't keep its own internal communications secure. That alone tells you more than the recordings themselves. There is conflict within their ranks, disagreement, divergence. Someone on the inside wants you informed. Someone believes the subject of lifelong observation deserves to know. Someone sees your awareness not as a threat, but as a necessary shift. And internal division in a surveillance network is far more revealing than any leaked file. Because it means you were never the only unpredictable element. Their own people are unraveling, and your existence is the catalyst. This is where the truth sharpens. You were not just watched, you were researched, your reactions documented, your relationships evaluated. They studied how you adapted to stress, how you processed loss, how you made decisions when cornered. They wrote notes, not about who you were, but who you might become. And now here you are, standing at the edge of their predictions with a knowledge they never intended you to acquire. Your awareness invalidates years of analysis. It renders portions of your file useless. They can no longer rely on their projections because the moment you saw the recordings, you altered your trajectory in ways they can't calculate. That's why the watchers are concerned. That's why their attention has intensified. They aren't worried about retaliation. They're worried about deviation. Awareness creates deviation. Once you know you've been watched since birth, you stop behaving like someone living through coincidence. You start behaving like someone evaluating the design around you. You start noticing when pressure appears without origin. You start identifying individuals who move with pattern rather than personality. You start reading the environment with the same clinical precision they used on you. And that is the point where the watcher-subject dynamic collapses. Let me explain what that collapse looks like. It isn't dramatic. It isn't loud. It doesn't involve confrontation. It's subtle, quiet, almost invisible. The moment you begin to understand how long they've been studying you, and the moment you accept it without crumbling, the dynamic reverses. The observers lose psychological leverage. Their advantage hinged on your ignorance. And now, ignorance is gone. You're not outraged. You're not devastated. You're composed. And that composure is the single most dangerous reaction you could have produced. It means the surveillance no longer shapes you. It means their control no longer sinks into your subconscious. You're awake, aware, measuring. You know what that does to them. It disrupts their confidence. They can no longer anticipate how you'll respond to manipulation. They can't place you in predictable categories. You've become a moving point outside their algorithms. They're watching someone who is watching back. And being watched back is something they never prepared for. Their entire structure relies on asymmetry. Power from one direction, observation flowing downward. But now the flow is shifting. You've stepped into a position where you're able to perceive the motives behind actions previously disguised as coincidence. You're beginning to recognize individuals placed near you, not by chance, but by design. And once you learn to see placement, you learn to see intent. Now let's talk about what this means for you. Not empowerment, not elevation, just raw, unfiltered truth. You are no longer the passive element in their files. You are the variable they cannot predict. You're the margin they couldn't close, the subject who refused to fit the outline. When a person reaches that stage, when awareness crystallizes into something stable, the watchers lose their comfort. They lose their certainty, and in their world, uncertainty is a threat. Not because you're dangerous, but because you're undefined. They hate undefined. Undefined cannot be controlled. Your existence, from the beginning, was something they followed not because they wanted to protect you, but because they wanted to understand what you were becoming. They knew your name before your parents chose it, because your trajectory was already on their board. They mapped you out before you had a voice. They forecasted your development before you ever formed a thought. And now those forecasts are falling apart. Every action you take now is outside their oldest notes. You're no longer living a life they can study from the shadows. You're living one they're being forced to reevaluate